that were in by 2 o'clock, thank you for being on time. For those of you who were not, you got to be ready for these things. All right. So this afternoon we have Lieutenant Commander Teresa Carpenter. She's coming to us from across the river down at the Joint Planning Support Element. That's part of the JEC down there at Norfolk. It's kind of the precursor to JPACE, which was kind of our 911 PA force. It was also the same entity that did a lot of the doctrine and kind of preparation for PA through like tier 1 type exercises, things like that. And so over the course of as Joint Forces Command went away, JPACE went over to Transcom, and I think you guys still reside under Transcom.
We do. Yep.
Only just kind of under this different construct. So she's here to talk about the accreditation and public relations plus military communications called APR+M. This program is offered through the Public Relations Society of America. I would say kind of on the Air Force side, not a lot of us take advantage of this type of development. Some do. The Navy, I would say, does a lot better, and my understanding is kind of baked into their budgets, their development. I don't know if it's officer only or officer and enlisted.
Officer and enlisted. We have a thing called the Navy Cool program, which will also fund enlisted getting the accreditation as well as officers. And we get a special code in our service record should we get the APR, special accreditation code. And that's also for International Association of Business Communicators. So they make it so that they level the playing field. So it's not just PRSA, but that also is a great incentive for those of us in the Navy to get the accreditation. Okay.
For those of you that have been around for a long time, you may remember Colonel Todd Bishan. He was a former director here. He's like one of those guys, and so he's been trying to kind of spark interest. So he had reached out a few weeks ago, and Commander Carpenter has kind of volunteered her time to talk about the program. It's better to have somebody who knows what they're talking about versus somebody who is aware of it but doesn't really know. Teresa, I want to thank you for taking the afternoon here to spend time with us to talk through the program. I do have to step out early, so I'm going to be one of those people who are going to come back and catch the recording afterwards. So with that, over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Colonel Sheets. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone on the ACCPA team who helped put this together. As Colonel said, my name is Lieutenant Commander Teresa Carpenter. I am a public affairs officer in the United States Navy. I've been in the Navy for the last 25 years. Prior enlisted, air crewman. I was a maintainer, fixed jets. Then I became a surface warfare officer. Now I'm a public affairs officer, and I've been doing that for the last 10 years. And I've been accredited since 2012. So I got my accreditation when the +M was recently added to the program. So it was relatively new for it to just not to only be an APR, but to have that special military training added onto it. And it's been amazing to see the level of interest and enthusiasm and advocacy around this program. In fact, the Department of Defense now has a formalized memorandum of understanding with PRSA specifically to really push this program. So I think that all we're going to see in the future is more buy-in and understanding for how to do this. I'm a member of the Public Relations Society of America. I'll talk a little bit about how that organization impacts me personally and professionally. A lot of the relationships and friends that I've made have been through the program. So it does involve spending a little bit of money. Some of that can be reimbursed, spending a little bit of time, but I think the payoffs and the rewards for investing the money and the time are 100% worth it and have made me a better communicator. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So just give me 1 second, and I'm going to pull my brief up. All right, can everybody see my screen?
Yep, we have visuals.
Awesome. So you'll see my first slide is that's me, the second person on the left. And I start with that because I think the relationships and the networking were the reason I decided to do it. Yes, it's a little bit of points in your record and oh, everybody thinks, oh, you're so strategic. But at the end of the day, it's about the people and it's about the relationships. And I'm sure some of you Air Force guys know who the third person is. I would hope so, who's next to me. And Anne has become such a cherished friend. We have been in touch off and on throughout the years. In fact, when I did not get through my first board, which I'm going to talk about, it was Anne who really just held my hand and listened to me cry the day I didn't get it, and or heard me cry on the phone. And she's just been an amazing friend over the years. She's known me, since my Lieutenant JG ensign days. And I'm grateful for her friendship and support. And you'll see Nicole Schwagman there, Navy. She's also a big rock star in the APR community, as well as Stacy Redinger, Marine Corps. So there's, and the girl on the left, I've got to remember her name. I did this brief one other time, but she's in government public affairs and National Guard. I just can't remember her name off the top of my head. But that was at the 2019 Public Relations Society of America International Conference, also called ICON. And it took place in San Diego that year. And we had the largest gathering of people in uniform who attended. No surprise, San Diego is a fleet concentration area. But I got to put together about 5 of the sessions and bring together people of all walks of life in military public affairs to do some of these sessions. And it was just so incredible and inspirational, and really solidified my relationship with PRSA. I'm now on the board of ethics and professional development for PRSA. And I believe that this affiliation that I have with the public of PRSA is going to be something for life for years to come. Next slide. Let me see if I can flip my slides. All right, so I'm going to paint sort of the scene of where I was when I started the APR journey. I was at Indo-PACOM. I had reported there in 2010. It was my third, if you count my time in Jasota P in the Philippines, it was probably my third tour in public affairs. I was an O2. I had 4 years of PA experience. And I got there and it was like, all right, we're going to make you a media officer because we really don't know what else to do with you. You're too junior to go to any of the OPTs. Looking back, I don't know if that was a wise decision to send someone so junior to a COCOM because I really couldn't offer a lot of expertise and guidance and planning. And what they really need is a seasoned O4 planner. And now I am a seasoned O4 planner. I can see that maybe that wasn't the best choice, but what it was is they had a billet for an O4. They couldn't fill it. And they were having an O3 from PAC Fleet that was going to take it. And I'd been in the region longer and I was already at PAC Fleet. So they sent me up to Indo-PACOM at that time. So here I am. I have all this free time on my hands, and I'm a storyteller, so bear with me. I have all this free time on my hands, and I'm like, well, what do I do? Oh, shoot. Because I couldn't go to any of the meetings. I wasn't getting any of the trips. I was a little bit frustrated because I wanted to do all this exciting tactical work, but at the same time, I knew that they didn't see that I really could bring much to the table. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to work on my APR+M. The minimum was 5 years of experience, but I thought that with my collateral duty time as a public affairs officer on USS Russell, that was a destroyer out there in Hawaii, that I could probably get to the 5-year mark. So I said, okay, I've done enough and I want to learn how to think strategically. Because the RPI process, it's called research, planning, implementation, and evaluation. It gives you a blueprint for how to put together a comms plan. And I'm like, well, if I need to be valuable as a PAO, I need to learn how to do a comms plan the proper way. And I had already won a Navy award. It's called the Thompson Ravitz Award for my award-winning DV program. So it was where we take community leaders and we take them out to sea. And I had put an application in for an award while I was at PAC Fleet, and thought, oh man, I got this in the bag because at least I've already won an award with this other program. So I consulted 2 APR+ mentors. I went through the entire questionnaire. So that's the process. You've got to, and we'll go into that more later, but you've got to apply for the program. You've got to do a questionnaire, and then you have to be able to present a portfolio. And you present the portfolio first, and then they determine whether or not you're ready to take the online exam. So the first step is doing the questionnaire, and you can do the questionnaire even before you sign up and pay the money. So if you just want to take your time going through the questions, that's a lot of people do that so that, because once you sign up, there is a timeline of when you sign up to when you are supposed to get your APR. And so I thought, okay, I've consulted my mentors, I've done my questionnaire. I'm now going to, start writing my plan based on my DV program. I also signed up for this online APR study course, which costed at that time like an additional $250. And I went every week from my computer desk. I would sit there, computer desk, there was a little chat window, and we'd watch we would, watch presentations, and it was really valuable. I met people from all over the world. A lot of them were not military and who did public relations, and we would practice presenting our plans. And I thought I had a pretty good idea of how to approach this. So I thought, I'm ready. It probably was a little less than a year. And I do the board, and I'm walking out of the board and I'm thinking, I got this. And I did really well. I answered everybody's questions. I didn't get stumped on anything, because even though they have a study guide, I mean, they can really kind of ask you anything under the sun. And it's a lot about how you present yourself and how confident you are with the questions that they ask you about your plan. And then have you studied all the, what they call knowledge, skills, and abilities, all the KSAs that are outlined in the study guide. And I thought that I had all that. So I'll never forget it. I'm walking my dog in Hawaii, and we're walking to the end of the mailbox, and I see the letter from the UAB, the Universal Accreditation Board. And I sit there and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, oh gosh. And I wait for my husband, that's my ex-husband now, but I wait for him to, open the letter together. And I look and I see I failed. I was so devastated. I was just I started crying. I mean, it was so emotional to me. I was, very JG, and I just thought, there's no way I totally had this. And so I got a couple people on the phone, and, you get those people that are just disillusioned with the program who also failed and said, this is bull crap. What are the standards? And then I got people like Anne that's like, all right, well, go back, look at your plan again, see where your holes are, and meet with your board panelists. So that's what I did. I sat with the one who was local and just asked her a bunch of questions. And there were parts of my board that had severe holes. They didn't make that apparent to me during the board. I was answering the questions to the best of my ability, and I thought I had it. But really, what it was is that I didn't understand the quantitative study of communications. I didn't have a good understanding of how my survey was properly measuring the audience. I didn't really understand a Likert scale. There were a lot of specific parts of what I was trying to describe that I didn't have a good understanding of. And then part of it was that, honestly, I don't think that I was experienced enough in my craft, and I don't think I consulted enough mentors. I think if I had talked to a few other people, they would have told me that I should have waited, and I should have gotten a better understanding of outcomes versus outputs. Just because a bunch of DVs who were probably already a little excited about the Navy to begin with came back even more excited about the Navy, that wasn't really an indication that I truly understood RPI and outcomes. And so what I did, I asked the UAB for a 1-year extension. I thought, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this again in a year. There was nothing I was doing at Indo-PACOM at my level that would show the RPI process. And at the time, I've always been very into community advocacy and volunteering, and I still am today. And so I thought, all right, what program is it that I can do on my level? And this is what I always advise junior people if they're going for the APR. And they say, well, there's nothing in my chain of command, there's nothing at my work that shows the whole RPI process that can demonstrate research, planning, implementation, and research. And I'm like, go work with a nonprofit. Go volunteer to write a comms plan for a nonprofit. And that way you can do all the research, you can pull the data, the primary and the secondary research. If you can do some kind of a survey or a focus group where you can do kind of like a long form interview with people, you have the opportunity to do that. And nonprofits, especially there's a nonprofit for anybody's passion. And if you can find somebody that will work with you. Now, I try to find the Hawaiian Humane Society, And they would work with me to a point, but not to where I felt like I was going to be able to get all the outcomes that I needed to show for this next board. So I created my own plan. I started a blog called Hawaii Military Pets. I started a Facebook page. And that's where I learned about all the issues about military and breed bans and puppy mills. There was actually a pet store at the Navy Exchange in Hawaii that was selling from a pet puppy mill in Kauai. So we flooded the inbox of the Navy Exchange comment cards and got them to stop selling those puppies. And we did a pet event. That's what you'll see on the right. We did a military appreciation event at the Hawaiian Humane Society with a bunch of tabling of, and other companies and businesses. But there's me at the lower left back in like 2011 with my little table. It was really an interesting experience because, I wasn't running a business and all the other people there had their biscuits treat business or their pet, clothing or whatever. And I'm just like, no, I provide free informational resources so that people can make a pet a lifelong commitment. And there were a lot of complaints from Hawaiian Humane Society that a lot of the military were giving up their pets. So the whole purpose of it was to provide resources and to help people keep their animals and help with transport. I became very good friends with Island Pet Movers. And, she was just starting her business, my buddy, Carrie Mendoza. So it was amazing experience. I also consulted PRSA fellows who had their APR. And at the time I was working on my master's in my JPME phase 1. And it also gave me a master's degree through the Naval War College. So I was able to specialize in information operations. And so by doing that, I took a master's course in quantitative communications because I knew if that's the one thing they're going to get me on, I'm going to get really smart on the proper ways to do a survey, the proper ways to do a focus group. And a lot of times in the military, unless you're on the base level and you're doing some sort of an environmental impact survey, or you're in a personnel type field where you're doing a wide scale survey of your sailors, or of your airmen, you're not going to have that opportunity to do those things. So the research side is incredibly hard, and you have to baseline, and then you go back and see, okay, did I move the needle? And so I knew there's no way that I was going to be able to get through this next board and talk the talk about quantitative research unless I had a better understanding of how it's conducted. So that's what I did. And so I sat before my second board. Back then, and probably today now too, because of COVID, everything was remote and there was just one person there with me locally, and then everybody else was just on the call. And it was a little difficult trying to explain my approach to it because I wasn't using a work-related plan, but I explained the backstory and how, there was just nothing in my chain of command that I felt at the time was going to make a good portfolio. So the results of this was that I passed, and that's my dog, just for, for whatever reason. And, it was such a relief, that it worked, because I wasn't sure it would. I thought, well, maybe I'll do this for another year and they'll come back and tell me I'm not experienced once again. But I'm pretty relentless. And I just figured I'd keep trying it until I passed. That was my attitude, was that if it's something that you want bad enough, then you'll just keep learning what you did wrong and you'll keep doing it again and again. So what did I learn from all this? And what were my key takeaways? And I know, like I say, this is a very short presentation because I want to open it up for Q&A, and it is Friday. So I know I'm probably the last thing on your guys' schedule today. And so I want to be very mindful of your time. So my key takeaways from this experience was, you don't give up. You study what worked for those who did pass. So contact some APR+M people who have done it. There is an APR+M UAB chair, and there is a APR+M rep within PRSA. Have them refer you to a mentor, and then study what they did. Get their portfolio, get their questionnaire. Anne was so giving with all of her resources. She would just send me PowerPoints and briefs and just all this stuff. So study those things, have all those references. You absolutely need the APR and the APR+M study guide, but there's also one text that you'll need, which is Essential Public Relations. I used to do chapter summaries of all of this. Another thing that you can do is either you start your own study group, which is what one enterprising candidate did last year here in the Norfolk region, or you can join the online course that I did, or PRSA does offer boot camps, which are like retreats or mini sessions where you can get more information about the APR and some study strategies. Another thing is for the written test, I always think it's good to know how many questions and then what is the minimum score to pass, because the questions are really hard. They're case study driven and you have to answer what the right answer is. And there could be 4 other answers that sound very close to what the right answer is. That's where I thought the APR online course was really helpful, because they go into detail about what some of the questions are, some of the ways that you can get tripped up over the questions. But the PRSA website has all of this. And I know it's kind of an eyesore with all the links and everything. So you really just want to take your time kind of going through it, maybe downloading the questionnaire, and then looking at the weighted percentage for each section, because there's like business literacy, there's parts about PR history, there's stuff about like copyright law and infringement, ethics. There's a section on ethics. So it's good to understand too, what percentage of the KSA's knowledge, skills, and abilities cover each section. And all that's laid out in the website, which you can read. And so that gives you sort of an idea of, okay, I should spend this much time on RPI, which is the biggest part, and maybe just this much time on the public relations history or some of those other things. And then once you pass, please share your knowledge with others. We've been seeing a lot of the recent people who have gone through the process, doing a LinkedIn blog. I think that's a very helpful way to share this information. You can also become an APR+M mentor, either by contacting PRSA and saying you'd like to become a mentor, so that when they've got somebody that needs help and wants to be linked up with somebody, they have somebody that will work with them. Or you can be a facilitator for their online course. I continue to do that to this day. So every season that it's offered, because it's got 3 seasons, they do it: fall, summer, and spring. I volunteer to at least facilitate one session. And I go on the call. It's an hour long. Michael Henry runs it, and he is a stickler about time and making sure that we all get something positive and useful out of the course. And he's a really great, runner or overall facilitator of the program. And so I really do credit that online course for really what got me over the edge and able to pass the exam, and also to get through my second board. But I think it's absolutely worth it. I encourage people to do it. It's been such an amazing experience. And especially if you stay involved with PRSA, it can just become an amazing resource to just pick people's brains about issues, or to just, I think, raise the collective standards of our craft. And with that, I think that is it. All right. Does anybody have any questions, or is there anything that you'd like for me to cover down on that I didn't address?
So having gone through this program, have you been able to apply any of those things, or lean on people who've helped you through the program, or those other resources, contacts in your current duties, or basically outside of that project, and can you kind of explain what you've been able to leverage?
Yes. In fact, that's a great question. And I need to add a slide on that, is how has the APR helped me today? The biggest way is how to write a public affairs plan. If I can say the steps on there, there's a woman by the name of Fern Boname, and she's not as active anymore, but she was a prior PRSA fellow, and she wrote the 10 steps to the PR plan. And I just absolutely love it, how it starts with a goal. And then from the goal, you go into what is an objective. And there's like 3 things that you need to have in a good objective. Then you lay out your audiences, then you have your strategies, and then your tactics. And I know most of them still off the top of my head, but I have a 1-pager that it's called Writing a Public Affairs Plan. And anytime I'm tasked to write a public affairs plan, I just look at this 1-pager and I look at all these steps, and it just reminds me to write a plan that way. And even as recently as my last command, when I learned how you can put public affairs plans in official instructions, which I think is great, because then the boss signs those official instructions, I laid that out exactly. I had measurable objectives. I had who my audiences were. I had my strategies, and then I laid out my tactics, and then I had a timeline. Yes, the one-page plan, I have that. I don't want to do it on the call because I'll probably just go into a Google Drive, night maze, but I will follow up with you, sir, and I will send that to you. It's for you guys to have it, because I ended up putting it also on the Chinfo portal for all the collateral duty PAOs, because I just felt like it was an easy way to just think through the process of starting a plan. So that has helped tremendously, having that. I think the second thing is just having the community of people who understand this. Oh, and the comms theories. So another thing that they teach us is, there are certain communication theories, and I found that to be very interesting, like diffusion theory, which is, how an idea gets traction, or there's the one, I can't remember it off the top of my head, but it's when you influence the influencer. That's a big one. And so just understanding those processes, I think the terminology was helpful too, like primary and secondary research, understanding quantitative communication, quantitative analysis versus qualitative analysis. So I think that was probably also very helpful. And I'm also kind of answering the questions in the chat. So let me go to those too while I'm just looking at them. Do you know of any mentors from the enlisted side that can help individuals get on the right track? No. I do know there are some chiefs in our community in the Navy side who have done the APR. I don't think it's very many. I know that's something that the APR leads are trying to get more of. But if you go on the APR website, what I would advise you to do is there is an email on there for APR+M or to contact someone, and they'll put you in touch with I think he's Army, but this guy named Ian, and I can't remember his last name, but he's the APR+M current lead. It used to be Nicole Schwagman. And what he'll do is he knows who among they track all the people who get their APR+M. And so they should be able to link you with somebody, and you can specifically ask that question.
I got one more question.
Okay.
How is leadership or your commanders? Do they look at you differently with accreditation, or do you just speak with more confidence and knowledge, or how do they react to it?
It depends on if they think it's important. So there have been some of my leaders who, and the people who think it's important usually are the ones who have it themselves, or who, just see the value of it. Right now, Admiral Charlie Brown, our 1-star, he has his APR. And so that's been a real game changer, I believe. And even our reserve 1-star has hers as well. So it's very pushed in the Navy circles. I'm in the joint world right now with, my boss is an old timer civilian, and I don't know, he doesn't really see it as very important, I don't think, but that's just because he doesn't need it. I mean, he's very firmly established where he is, and it's not something that I think he understands the value of it. And obviously he supports me in my pursuit of mentoring through it. So I'm very grateful for that as well. But it all just sort of varies. I think that everyone should be supporting it. I mean, why if they give us this opportunity to better our skills and to improve our game, then let's take advantage of it. And I don't know if there's any advocacy in your service regarding like making it a promotion, points towards your promotion or whatever, but I think more efforts to do that are the better, because I think people will see that incentive and then they'll want to do it more. It is a time commitment. It really is. And so you have to think, okay, can I devote the time to it? And depending on how senior you are, if you're really senior, you might not have to devote that much time to it, because you might already have this amazing portfolio that all you got to do is polish up a little bit and you got it in the bag, or you've already seen all the circumstances and the situations. It was very hard for me. But when I look back on it, I realized it was so hard for me because I was so inexperienced. I think if I were getting the APR now as a lieutenant commander, it'd be completely different, because I have a lot more plans and a lot more experience to fall back on. So it all depends on when you want to get it. And then I saw, is it available to, absolutely it's available to civilians. In fact, the APR+M, I want, and please double check with I think it's also available to contractors. So as long as you can show that you're working in a military affiliated position, any civilian, any contractor can get it. And I do believe it's a resume builder as well. So you go to another communications related job, the fact that you went above and beyond what was required of you and got this special accreditation that is a signifier of excellence in your craft, I feel like that says something. That says something about your work ethic and about what you're willing to do in servitude towards your craft. And then especially if you continue to give back as an APR+M mentor, I think that's really valuable. Can you point us to other members in your network who have shared products? So I think the best thing for you to do is to start with the APR+M website. And then also look at what the best place that I can think of to get the best products that will help you is, I'm sure in the Air Force, you guys also have an awards program or a comms plan awards program like we do. Go and look at some of those comms plans that won all the awards and reach out to those people and say, send me your work. And then look at what the rigor was in how they executed that comms plan. I know for Navy, we go off of the Silver Anvil award criteria from PRSA. So that's their gold standard for a communications plan. And so the questions and the way we do our 2-page information paper, it is exactly the way the Silver Anvil is laid out. And I think that really will give you a blueprint for what a proper portfolio should look like. I'm all about not reinventing the wheel. So I'm all about pulling those comms plans off the shelf that other people have done and going, oh, you did some environmental scanning. Oh, you did some social media listening. Oh, you used this analytics tool that was freely available and you didn't have to pay anybody to use. And you did, and you know, I think that we can make our lives easier when we share information. And that to me is probably the best place to get that. And then as far as getting the questionnaires from I just ask people, would you be willing to share your questionnaire? It's no different than when I ask people for fit rep bullets. That's our evaluations. I just say, if you're not comfortable, I totally understand, but would you be willing to share your fit rep bullets? Because and I'm not going to word mine exactly what they say, but it gives me inspiration for like what words to use and how to paint my picture.
Hi, my name is Leah Garten. I'm the media chief here. I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your story about how you tried it and didn't accomplish it. I had a very similar experience. I tried to go for the APR+M early on when it was first created as the +M. And like you, I was probably too young in my career and was struggling with it was still very corporate focused. So I was struggling with how to take it and apply it to the +M and the experiences that I was having within my organization at the time. And so I tried various things. I joined study groups, but again, I was the only +M candidate. And so that made it difficult to really take what they were talking about and apply it to my work. And I tried doing a pro bono comp plan, and that didn't really work out too well. So anyway,
like I said, Hawaiian Humane Society was like, what? Why you want to do this? And that's when I realized, like, this isn't going to happen unless I just create something. But oh my God, I learned so much. Like I did a petition on change.org about stopping military breed bans, which by the way, we still have, but 50,000 people signed it all through social media. So that was kind of cool. And I learned a lot about that issue. I even met with a staffer from one of our congressional members in the state and learned all the problems with housing insurance, because it all comes down to insurance and military housing and them not wanting to be liable for a pit bull biting on somebody or killing someone. And so now I'm better educated about it. But yeah, I mean, you'll learn so much, even if you just make up your own plan. I bought a domain name, I learned WordPress, and I started a Facebook page. And then I did my little tabling events. I'd find out when they would have pet festivals in Hawaii. And I would always say, I'm like, I'm not making money. I'm not turning a profit. Will you let me have some space? And a lot of organizations and a lot of those events would let me have free space because I wasn't selling anything. So I'm just going to hand out my little flyers and say, join my Facebook page, go on my website. And that's how I was able to do it. So please don't be discouraged. Did you get to your question? I'm sorry.
So no, so I was just, sharing that I had a very similar experience And unfortunately, just with where I was at in my life and things I had going on, I decided to do my master's degree instead, and kind of said, you know what, I really just don't have the time, and it's not fitting with the type of work I was doing. And so I kind of, tabled it for then. But the question I have for you is, what's the upkeep like? Because I know you have to maintain, after you get the accreditation, you have to maintain it. So can you talk about what you do to maintain the accreditation that you have, and what the cost is in doing that, and what the process is for maintenance?
So they go into certain sections of your career, and they want you to weigh different things, and you have to have a number of points in certain sections. So again, I'll refer you back to the APR+M website. They've got the maintenance. It'll say maintenance period, and you can see some of the things that count for points. I don't think it's very hard. I mean, you can literally attend conferences sometimes, or you can be a speaker at a conference, and that weighs you a little bit more. Or for like me, I serve on a national board for PRSA, so that contributes to it. You can get a master's degree and get automatic accreditation. So I've done that before because I got a second master's degree later on and was able to count that towards my accreditation. When you win awards, so if you win a comms award within your craft, you will get points towards your accreditation if you're published. So if you get an academic paper published, or I would say even an article that, all the articles, like I write blogs on LinkedIn about our craft sometimes. So I'm counting those towards my maintenance points. So there are a variety of ways, and I think they make it pretty easy to take the stuff that you're already doing. So if you're already giving back, or you're already or if you're mentoring someone, like if you're kind of helping somebody else along with the APR, you get points for that. You can even do things, and in the joint world, they've got this whole section about joint stuff because it's the +M. You can take FEMA courses. So I took a bunch of FEMA courses for another qualification, and I was able to apply those FEMA courses to the APR. So you can go on a joint exercise, and that counts towards your accreditation. So it's just looking at that maintenance paperwork and saying, okay, I already do this, I already do that. Oh, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that. But I think these are all good things. And what they're trying to do is make sure it's not like, oh, I got my APR+M, got my check in the block. And it's only about $50, or it's not, it may be a little more than that. I could be dating myself because I'm up for my renewal actually, I think in June. But I feel there is a cost to it. There is a time commitment to it. But for me, it has paid off with the relationships that I've built, with the expertise that I've gained, and just the feeling of knowing that you're helping others, and you're doing something that's good for yourself and good for the craft.
Any other questions out there? All right. I'll tell you from the last public affairs development team meeting, there's some initial talk about APR+M, but we're nowhere near where Chinfo is at right now, because they have to look at one cost across the career field, and then kind of the maintenance piece of it. But it is something they're looking at. And from my time in the Air Force, I'll tell you, the Air Force doesn't like to be the lagging service. So it's probably something they'll work on sooner than later, or at least start to phase in. So with that, Teresa, thanks for dialing in and sharing your information. I'll share your contact information here if anybody has any questions, that they'd like to get in touch with you offline, and then we'll stand by for those other products to share with the group here, just kind of give them something to also look at. Folks, you can also check out the PRSA website. Available on there is their strategy and tactics magazine. And while it definitely, focuses on the corporate PR world, there's lessons and things that can be, pulled from that. And with the current issue has a article by Helio Fred Garcia. He wrote a book on power of communication, but essentially kind of, he's done kind of a lot of PR work, and I had to read one of his books for War College. So it was a great read. But one of the points in there he says is, in a crisis, what would responsible people expect of, what would reasonable people expect of a responsible organization? And that's kind of a mantra that Leah and I kept talking through as we were working the accident investigation board for the Shaw mishap. So certainly written towards a, commercial PR lens. However, there's things that you could pick out of there and apply to the jobs you're doing here. So with that, thanks everyone. Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure to be on. And yes, please follow up with me if you guys want any more information or if there's anything I didn't answer here. I'm happy to help. And sir, as you said, I will follow up with those other materials.
All right. Have a great weekend.
All right. See you guys later.